All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Pando Days 24-25 Spring Term Project Premieres. My name's Matthew Manos. I'm the head of a design firm here in Los Angeles called Very Nice, faculty at USC, and a longtime Pando maniac, most importantly. I'm your host today. Pando Days is the program that turns academic work into real-world solutions for impact in your community and world. All of these events follow a standard format. Each team is given 15 to 20 minutes to present summaries of their projects, and then we'll have about a half hour of Q&A and just open dialogue from a panel of experts. These events are recorded, and then over the summer, the recordings along with project materials will be posted on each team's dedicated webpage, which you can find at pandopopulous.com. The projects are then judged by a distinguished panel of specialists. We've got honors and prizes passed out and networking opportunities galore happening at the Pando Sustainability Awards. So definitely stay tuned for more details on that. But today we're going to be hearing from Los Angeles Trade Technical College. The project is led by Jack Oliva Rendler and is titled EcoLab, a futuristic green maker space that aims to revitalize struggling urban areas through community-led design. Can't wait to hear more. And Jack, this is your first Pando Days project, but you've been in the family for some time, so we're really happy to have you and see what you and the students were up to. Let's throw the floor over to you.
All right. Thank you so much for having us. We're greatly honored and looking forward to presenting. We'll just jump right into it. Um, I'll share the screen. I, mm, all right. Oh, doesn't want to hide. There we go. Okay. Um, yeah, so LATTC Architecture Ecolab. Um, the Ecolab revitalizes struggling urban areas through community-led design, creating urban interventions like acupuncture for the planet. By harnessing untapped talent, promoting sustainable living, and integrating nature-inspired solutions with local digital manufacturing and metaverse tools. Yeah, I speak a little bit to that. We're looking at how to bring resources to communities through the delivery of these eco labs where environmental research can happen um, inside material laboratories, uh, biology laboratories, geospatial labs, gallery spaces. Um, yeah, so it's providing the facility which will be the backbone for environmental research in those communities. So we have this description about what we were exploring this semester, and I'll read it. Uh, Here we go. The Ecolab operates as a civic node for geospatial research and environmental studies, hosting investigative activities that engage with data-intensive methodologies and Earth observation systems. It functions simultaneously as a physical site and an ontological apparatus through which architecture participates in planetary scale systems of knowledge, extraction, and transformation. Emphasis is placed on architecture's capacity to formalize the interdependency between computational systems and ecological dynamics and collective consciousness. The building is constituted through a morphogenetic logic wherein spatial organization, material articulation, and formal continuity emerge from the internal dynamics of algorithmic procedures and geometric operations. Architecture becomes a mediating interface between geochemical flows, atmospheric phenomena, and socio-technical practices. The Ecolab constitutes a spatial praxis wherein design articulates the imminent order of biological and informational systems without recourse to direct mimesis or instrumentalism. The studio advances a methodological framework in which architectural program is enfolded within an organic performative topological system, generating spatial ontologies through the internal logics of morphogenesis, aggregation, and continuity. By organizing space through topological and morphogenetic principles, the architecture models the interdependent nonlinear dynamics intrinsic to ecological systems, offering a spatial paradigm that aligns the production of form with the logic of biospheric processes. Like acupuncture's precision in relieving stress and promoting healing, Ecolab interventions are small scale, strategic actions that target specific areas to alleviate environmental stress, stimulate social and economic improvements, and create a unique identity within each neighborhood. These initiatives are culturally relevant, ensuring a balance between positive impacts and the protection of communities' well being, respecting local culture, preventing displacement, and ensuring long term sustainability. And what stands out for me most from that uh, writing is this acupuncture analogy. As you can see on the right, we have uh, a pod. The eco hubs are, let's say, like capsules or pods that would land at particular strategic locations and literally landing. They resemble sort of a spaceship, and they land in strategic locations in the communities to provide all the resources for environmental research. And the other point of this that stands out to me is the topic of topology as surface modeling that creates passive systems like automatic cooling for cross ventilation to move through the space. But then we also explored facade tectonics for permeable light and air to enter the building. So this was the sample project I was working on to lead the students through the semester, uh, sort of mimicking certain amphibian skin or insect skin to create a permeable outside that would inspire essentially architecture that, um, or design in general that would happen inside. It would inspire uh, work processes that uh, take an example from nature and integrate a deep understanding, a scientific knowledge of nature into the design process. We did programmatic volume first, and then um, sort of an encapsulating volume, and then went inside and designed interiors. So these are cross sections and floor plans, and with a lot of them running them through AI workflows to enhance the floor plans and the model in general. And yeah, so in the floor plan, you can see like a conference room, two laboratories, restrooms, a gallery space, sort of open lobby, uh, places to meet and gather, and a library space. So sort of flexible program, but enough to provide all the resources necessary to conduct environmental research and a dynamic, even dramatic space to inspire that type of learning. And then I'm going to step aside and let the students present now. Yes. Here we have a recording from Kelly.
The EcoHub offers ample collaboration spaces. These spaces bring together different perspectives and fields of study to improve marine life worldwide. Lastly, the private libraries, which is suspended off the ground, is where scientists, marine researchers, and college students can access books, digital archives, study rooms, and a large variety of jarred, fossilized, and taxidermied specimens to examine up close. My favorite part of developing the Eco Hub was designing the floor plans. It helped me understand how space works and how people interact with their surroundings. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Kelly. I'll be talking a little bit more about the first steps we took for designing our floor plans and our massing. So this was a great project for me to develop my observational and like analytical thinking. This is a worm shell. I brought the shell that inspired my composition. So when we first started, I had to really look at this shell and start thinking how are levels going to fit in here, how are elevators and this space is going to fit in this form. Through visualizing it, I modeled it on Rhino, and it became this design, which is sort of like a semicircle shape. It keeps sort of the shape of the shell, yet having symmetry. Um, and then from there, we also took a creative way with AI and submitted our images of our envelopes to AI and gave us different interpretations of how our work could look like. Here I have my floor plans. On the left side, I have the first floor. This was a challenge for me because I'm used to the traditional squarish floor plans for houses. So this was a really nice exercise to see how floor plans fit in abstract forms and shapes. And then on the right side is the second level. Here I felt like I was starting to really get the groove of formatting different shapes. Here's where we have and then to the next slide. Sorry. This is the exoskeleton of my Eco Hub. It's inspired by the nabbit beetle, which has hydrophilic and hydrophobic properties, and it would serve as a water collecting system. So that's the overall of my Eco Lab.
Thank you, Kelly. And we could just move right into Juan Jaime.
Hello, my name is Juan Jaime, and this is my Eco Hub project. So the social function of this building is what drives the entire concept. Instead of leaving empty lots as dead space, the Eco Hub transforms them into dynamic social environments. It provides jobs, learning opportunities, and platforms for public engagement through its labs, co-working areas, exhibition spaces, and public gallery. It's designed to be a place where scientists, students, and the public can meet, collaborate, and create solutions for a sustainable future. Throughout this process, I learned how to think about geometry and spatial organization in a more intentional way. Using vertices, faces, and edges was more than just modeling technique. It helped shape my modeling experience. For example, edges allowed me to create clean, modular lab zones, while the manipulation of faces helped shape openings for natural ventilation and light. Vertices became key for aligning elements for solar angles, creating more environmentally responsive design. So this is my project, and that's the end of my presentation, my part, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Juan Jaime. And we have another excerpt about the alignment of the Ecolab with United Nations principles. So Ecolab interventions align with United Nations principles, ensuring people have access to essential services within walking distance, including spaces to heal, learn, perform, create, feel safe, access healthy food, and maintain mobility. The interventions are born from local creativity, giving a unique identity to buildings and streets and creating a sense of place in the neighborhood. Progress is tracked through a data-driven approach focusing on community engagement, job creation, and alignment with the SDGs. Real-time monitoring, allowing Ecolab to adapt and refine strategies, ensuring long-term success and transforming marginalized communities into vibrant, resilient urban environments. The collection of spatial data encompassing the built environment, existing resources, policies, sustainable plans, water, energy, air systems, businesses, demographics, and mobility will revolutionize our perspective of urban environments. This gamified and interactive environment is set to attract a diverse array of users and support the vision of a city designed for the future. Spatial tools are increasingly revolutionizing community engagement and planning, especially through design. These tools leverage technology and data to facilitate a more inclusive and participatory approach to community planning, empowering communities to actively shape their future in a more informed and collaborative manner. Ecolab design and technology create more engaging and inclusive processes by providing visualizations, immersive experiences, and interactive platforms. These tools empower residents to actively participate in shaping the future of their communities. This collaborative approach can lead to more sustainable and community-driven development outcomes. Ecolab's approach includes 27 distinct urban intervention ranging from green spaces, tiny houses, cooling centers, and super straight structures to urban farming, healing centers, and maker spaces. The community-driven approach ensures that interventions are culturally relevant and tailored to meet unique needs of each neighborhood, reinforcing the community identity and resilience. Green spaces that contribute to urban biodiversity, provide recreational areas, and improve ecological diversity, all while offering spaces for social interaction and community wellness. Super straight structures address urban heat islands, improving public health by reducing urban temperatures and energy consumption. Urban farming promotes sustainable agriculture and access to fresh produce, enhancing food security and stimulating local economies. Healing centers offer holistic health services that promote mental health and well-being, while educational murals provide spaces that stimulate creativity and cultural development. Spaces and galleries enrich cultural life, provide platforms for artistic expression, and offer economic opportunities. Meanwhile, shelter, tiny houses, and ADUs address the need for affordable housing through sustainable building practices, ensuring that vulnerable populations have access to safe and environmentally friendly living spaces. These interventions are not standalone efforts, but are interconnected assets shared by the network, creating a comprehensive ecosystem within each community. By regularly assessing key indicators such as community engagement, environmental impact, and economic growth, Ecolab centers can make data-driven adjustments to improve their effectiveness. This ongoing evaluation ensures that the solution continues to meet the evolving needs of the communities it serves, fostering sustainable evolution and social equity. I included a project from a couple students that were unable to make it today. This is Sean Godoy. I thought his topology system was definitely worth noting. Definitely starts to resemble something you would find in nature, some type of animal. And then the consistent theme in the class of a permeable paneled facade, and his interior really started to shine with a sort of dense subdivision of labs, gallery spaces, and classrooms, and an open space to gather. So I thought this project was very strong, and made sure to include it. This is Victor's project. I really appreciated how we leaned into the visionary aspect of these eco hubs and the powerful presence they would have in the community. And this is Carrie, and I'm grateful for her floor plan, being able to arrange the different programs and these green walls that are included in the space. And then we arrive at Lumen. Lumen, do you want to talk about your work?
Sure. I prepared a small recording to do just that.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Lumen Digel, a student at LATTC's architectural program. This is my Ecolab project. Heavily inspired by the Queen of Curves, Zaha Hadid, I designed my building, the envelope of my building to imitate the natural formations of a riverbed rock. I literally got a rock and followed the contours of it. While on the inside, the aesthetics are accentuated by a rhythm of horizontal elements blending together to suggest expansion. The space, this construct, functions as a place for scientists, science enthusiasts, and other like-minded individuals to convene and calculate solutions. The massive facility consists of a lobby, a two-story library, three state-of-the-art laboratories with their own storage rooms, a plaza, a gallery space, and a collaboration room. Some of my favorite sustainable features of this building includes the natural skylighting from one of the many skylights in the building, as well as rooftop green spaces, which encourages water irrigation and wellness. That's my project. Thank you.
And I was inspired to take Lumen's project into AI, and I appreciated the Zen quality of your project, Lumen. There was a nice open and emptiness to it. That was really nice. And these are line work renders of his interior. And we get to Drew.
Hi, thank you. I'm Drew Farnham. This Eco Lab is about healing. The site is on the lake of MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, an area where people are frankly hurting. It will serve as a science and culture hub to address community, climate change, and the needs of the people. I was inspired by Quiche tribal botanist Matthew Tadamez when he spoke in our studio about the medicinal and structural properties of the willow and about land stewardship. Later, I learned that the Land Acknowledgement Project by the County of Los Angeles, their tasks reminded me of Pando: care for the land, awareness and impact, respect and reciprocity, protection and preservation, and restoration and revitalization. This began as a river rock shape before I learned that the rock and the hole in the rock are central to Quiche science and spirituality, and the columns supporting the structure follow animal bone shape of the Quiche whistle. On the second floor, in the middle of a large co-working and collaboration hub, a top-to-bottom hole pierces the building and provides a view to an atrium. The columns are set in polar array centered on the hall. To the side are 3 labs: a climate and energy lab, a biomaterials lab, and an urban ecology lab, all with plenty of lab table storage and workspace. Across the floor, near the pebble-shaped staircase, is the huge library and research archive. A spiral stair takes you to an upper level and a level above that. Downstairs, the reception area is also a display floor. The edge of the floor rises in curved tiers along the rounded shape of the river rock shape. Next is the Open Arts and Crafts Creation Hall. This is my favorite area, populated by many easels and crafting tables, divided only by long counters with storage. The confluence of the EcoLab program with the desire of the county to acknowledge the land with concrete affirmation brings great hope that this EcoLab will be a reality. And that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Drew.
I could also mention that strange picture with the dots and the black background represents an intensive GIS analysis of the area around MacArthur Park, including the arts and mental health sites. Just a note. Thank you.
All right. That's our presentation, and we're so grateful to have delivered it.
I
Thank you.
just share few more things. We 3D printed this model here in our classrooms. It's been wind tested, just so all of you could see and share.
Yeah.
It's Professor Jack's model, 3D printed.
That's amazing work, guys. I love how you're able to make this seem like something that we would see on Mars, but it's actually brought down to Earth and it's very rooted in Earth. And, and the biomimicry of all of this as well, I think is just fantastic. Some of the spaces, Lumen, yours in particular, I would actually like to skateboard in. It looks pretty set up for that. So you might have another use case there. But without further ado, I do want to throw it over to our respondents for the next half hour to react to this. How might we assess the project? What are ways the impact could be pushed even further? What kinds of questions in general do you all have as well? And with us today, we've got Justin Brezhnev and Gary Lai. Justin is founder and executive director of Hacker Fund, an incubator of projects that help the disadvantaged, educate the community, and protect the environment. Justin is a member of the Association of Fundraising and Grant Professionals, has raised millions of dollars as fundraising counsel for social enterprises, and he was listed in Forbes 30 Under 30 list for his work in education. And then we've got Gary, who's the principal and founder of Quixotic Nature-Based Solutions, a landscape architectural firm in Pasadena, California. Quixotic plans, designs, and manages projects that integrate natural processes with design solutions that are holistic, practical, implementable, and maintainable. He is board chair of the Los Angeles Green Building Council and a lecturer at Cal Poly Pomona. So thank you guys both so much for joining us. Justin, why don't we have you jump in first? Any observations, questions, things that stood out to you? And then we'll throw it to Gary after that.
Excellent. Thank you for having me, and amazing presentations, y'all. I think that when I was in high school, I really wanted to be an architect. So it's a blessing to see programs like this so that you have access. I feel like I'm now having a roundabout way to getting myself back into architecture by being here. So I got my entry point into building spaces through fundraising. As you heard, my background is in fundraising. So I raise money through private foundations and public grants. So there are a lot of ways to get money for what you just designed. And so my question is always, how do you cut the cake in terms of prioritization to be able to get funding? Because obviously there's beautification budgets, and then there's budgets about accessibility. So my question to you folks who presented today, what considerations are being done to make the space more accessible, and what visual representations can be done right now on the models to show that those considerations were met, right? And so I think that what I noticed from the presentations, the weight in terms of scoring, if I were to look at it, there was a focus on beautification and the science and adapting nature to the design. And now, how do we bring the human element, where sometimes we have ailments and disabilities of getting around spaces? How do we bring that human element into the nature that's designed? So that's, I think, something that I would like to see, because then that would also allow me as a grant professional who may partner with one of you one day to help get you money for this kind of a space, millions of dollars to build it out, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, construction grants, CapEx, capital expense grants. Those are things that I would like to see in the design, if it's some way to represent it or even talk to it.
Yeah, great comment. Jack, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah,
Or-
sure. Yeah, in terms of accessibility, there's what I'm excited about is tying this into some of the other classes we have at Trade Tech, which is like the GIS class, and actually visualizing these eco hubs in their context, so in the urban environment, and seeing the impact that would have and the presence it would have. So moving forward, we're not done yet, we're gonna I'm looking forward to those steps. Never ends. Yeah.
Art and science is never done.
Yeah. And yeah, there's definitely more work to be done in terms of taking, like you said, these nature-based geometries and making them more ergonomic as in appealing to circulation and ADA, but it's totally possible, and
Absolutely.
we're up for the challenge. Yeah.
There's a famous quote in the grant world: what gets measured gets managed. What gets managed gets money. And so whatever you put in your floor plans that you are measuring, and there's a reason that you're managing it, somebody will give you money. And so I can tell you this from
Cool.
experience, having won millions of dollars. Recently, we won a very large grant. We can't talk about it yet, but I can tell you that if you measure it and you manage it, you will get money for it.
Awesome.
Yeah, really good advice. Let's throw it to Gary for some response. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again for your excellent presentation, and thank you for inviting me to this. So I just want to talk a couple, maybe take 30 seconds to talk about me a little bit because I'm a landscape architect, and when we talk about nature-based solutions and we talk about nature, my toolkit is actually living systems.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of a bias, a little bit of a bias, right? And so I don't necessarily claim or have any knowledge necessarily, even though I've been doing this for a long time, of architecture and the form of architecture. So just take that and take my comments with a grain of salt if that wasn't part of the class itself. I would like to just preface it by saying that the objects that you have designed is beautiful. I think they're fantastic. I love the way you're using technology to make these buildings more green, more sustainable. But I do want to point out that you do use a lot of words in your descriptions that talk more about the context and the object, right? So I wrote down a lot about what you talked about: sense of place, you community engagement, walking distance, resilience, green spaces, community planning, biodiversity, tiny houses. So you use all this language, and I don't see them in the project. Right. So I'm a contextual designer. I believe in what the objects that are put in a space should be part of that community. As Marcella would say, I work a lot in underserved communities. And, this idea that you're going to put an object down in a community, any of these objects, except for maybe the marine biology object, could go anywhere in the world at this point, right? Which might be the point, right? It could be in any underserved neighborhood in the world, but is that contextually, is that really doing what you're saying it's going to be doing? Is it really inspiring the community around it, giving incentives for the communities to talk about environmentalism? One of the difficult things I have is getting people who are trying to live day to day to care about the environment, right? Which is a long term. I have problems with that with middle class. I have problems with that in neighborhoods that are have high income neighborhoods, right? We have problems with that with our society about running out of that. And I don't necessarily see how these objects and what's in those objects moves that experience forward. I possibly, so what we have been doing at USGBC California is putting eco labs or eco hubs as education centers, right? For the newer, younger generation to understand how the environment works. I mean, some of these underserved communities, the kids have never seen a tree outside of one that is sitting in their street, for example. They never go up to anything that has to do with nature. And I, I, I'm just saying that if for the next step, I mean, if the scope of this class was just the building in and of itself and learning about that, that's great. But I think that if that was the case, that's how your description should say it is, because it's not showing me as a urban designer and a landscape architect any of the things that you actually talked about. So I think you just need to be very careful about the explanation about what the goals of the class actually was. But again, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm from a completely different
Yeah.
perspective as a landscape architect.
Yeah. I have so much respect for working with plants, biospheric material, and actual foliage and soil. And yeah, that wasn't necessarily the approach to this class. What reading about the tiny houses and the murals speaks to the broader curriculum at Trey Tech. and I understand it's like wasn't necessarily in in this presentation. I think it was speaking to like previous Pando submissions we've done also. And then in terms of contextual analysis, I 100% like agree with the importantness of that. Um, we have a GIS course here with very like thorough community analysis. Um, it's how much we can fit in one semester in terms of thorough contextual analysis and getting the students to design these highly evolved like biomimetic forms is a challenge. But I appreciate the challenge to do both in the same semester in the same class. Would be wonderful. Yeah. But yeah, how we've been managing the curriculum. So one class is this environmental analysis, geospatial modeling class, and then the other class is about like the highest form of biomimetic architecture. Um, yeah, I appreciate the desire for um, accuracy and yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you had said that and that's what the goals of the class was, then my reading of it would have been different, right? I mean,
yeah,
in terms of understanding what the goals of the class, but you talk a lot about things that are urban planning,
yeah,
serving underserved neighborhoods, and all of that goes into that. I mean, we not if you put one of these objects in South LA, for example, we're not even talking about how it might spark gentrification, for example, and
yeah,
displacement, right? Which is the two largest problems of putting objects of this caliber in neighborhoods like that, right? So
mm,
I think it's very important to sort of when you preface and when you talk about what the students are trying to achieve, I think you need to focus on what they are trying to achieve, not things that are not being addressed.
yeah.
Justin, let's throw it back to you.
I'm just going to add on to that, onto what Gary's saying, because I have sat on the committees uh, that basically have to discuss and represent the stakeholders. So I would recommend, as part of curriculum, and to any of the students, to go to your local neighborhood council meetings, look at the land use and planning committee and how they discuss when a building is erected or an object is placed in the community, and see all the different stakeholders who have a different opinion. What Gary is mentioning, I've experienced because I've sat on the Venice Neighborhood Council, and I'm currently on the board of the Venice Chamber of Commerce. And when you're on these boards and you go to these committee meetings, there's taxpayer budgets that are, while they're small, you're making decisions about something like an architectural plan that somebody wants to do, and they want to erect a building, multi-use, multifamily, right, or some kind of a center. They have to bring in their architectural plans and all the considerations that Gary has mentioned, as far as the landscape and what it might do to the community when you have a center or some kind of a beautification piece that might attract tourism, right, or attract more affluent neighbors to want to become neighbors, right? And so I think those are the practical things that could be addressed and spoken about in your presentations, because they can tie in the local stakeholders. There's the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment in the city of LA. There's about 100 neighborhood councils, so you can go to all of them. They're free, they're public, they're your representatives. So I would recommend going to your next one and seeing how the architects there are answering questions, because the stakeholders will grill you and they'll ask and they'll say, why is this here? I can no longer, take my dog there, or I can no longer do this. Those are considerations to have, because those will be real human being considerations, right? Because those are lives that are lived, whether you live, work, own property. Those are the stakeholders in turn, essentially, when you look at the government and the funding that flows.
Yeah, Lynn.
Yes. First of all, I really enjoyed seeing what you've produced. And I'd like to speak for a moment to like the student presentations. I very much like the way that you presented and put yourself personally in it, that it wasn't just, this is what I did, this is what I did, why I did it, what it meant to me. And I think those motivations are very important in terms of you being able to realize these kind of projects in the future. And so, on this presentation, and certainly Marcella, in future presentations, I really like that personal involvement, with the students. I also kind of want to agree that that I think there's a way of I thought that the presentation overall became very wordy at times, and I've just had the experience of publishing a book of 100-word stories from my father, and I think the exercise of being able to say things like in 100 words is really valuable, because you learn you don't have to say everything, and 100 words or something shorter becomes much more engaging, and you can still get the information across. And so I would just urge you to kind of think about that as well. But I think I'm very excited about these visionary projects, but I agree that they need to be contextual. So we need to see the context.
Justin.
I just wanted to add to what was just said. There was a very critical piece that stood out to me, and it's about putting yourself first. I talk about stakeholders. Oftentimes, you might be the stakeholder, the first stakeholder who really cares about an issue. So definitely put your, this is your, you will do many presentations in your life. If there's one thing you take away from this presentation, it's the fact that you will always be some kind of a stakeholder, and introduce yourself as one and contextualize what that stakeholder means into the broader context of your project, because there will be multiple stakeholders in the future, whether it's someone like me who's sitting in a cat suit who can give you $1 million for a project, or it's someone like, Gary, who will grill you on the specific contextualization of the craft that's necessary to achieve in the communities what you're trying to achieve, because he knows the destination of what you want to do when you actually put this in. So remember that you will always be some kind of a stakeholder, and make your case from that position. So for the folks that did that, thank you for doing that. And I'm glad that one of the panelists here has caught that and has underscored that, because please take that away with you today, that is a strong thing to do.
And I'll just add, that you can do something like a grocery store test on this, where you go to a grocery store in the community that you're imagining this might be in, bring a printout of all this beautiful work, and go up to someone and say, "Hey, what do you think of this in the community? What do you think would happen inside?" And, half the people will tell you to buzz off, but the other half will give you some good feedback.
Absolutely. The Girl Scout cookies, the Girl Scouts know what they're doing. They really know what they're doing. They're they're a very powerful group. And if you've seen, the folks that canvass neighborhood council, if you stand outside a grocery store, he's absolutely right.
I want to comment
Let's
something
go
that
to Marcella.
I want to comment something that is extremely important. Many of these students are first semester students of architecture, second semester students of architecture. So I really want to applaud the detail on the architecture and the biomimicry of it, because I never seen this in first or second semester students. And this is really going to open community college students to start a conversation that they were never able to speak before at an architecture level. So that's what I applaud this semester for bringing the community college conversation into these discussions and these explorations and innovation. More than anything, let's bring innovation into our communities, and better to say that it should happen at a community college level. So that I applaud tremendously. Remember, these students didn't even know the software. They use parametric driven design. They use Rhino. They started from Grasshopper. I mean, the technology that these students did is probably a master's program level. So let's really recognize that, and even that all of them got to print. The files are ready to be printed. They all got to develop, and they're not gaming. They're actually, all these are very accurate dimensions, very scientific. And I think it's very important to reinforce that they're all to scale and they're all buildable following modern methods of construction. So that I really want to applaud this class for that.
Let's take him to a neighborhood council meeting. Let's get him some grant money. We're ready. I'm excited. All we need is some stakeholders in the room. We have a quorum.
I love it. Are there any other comments or questions out there? We've got a couple more minutes if there is. This has been a really good discussion.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just wanted to thank Gary Lai for his criticism, JB for his insight, invaluable information going around, and just know it's being heated. We hear you.
We're here for you.
Yeah. So I just want to say, Marcella, what you just said is really important. And I think it needs to be about the context of who the students are, what they're learning, and and I would love in future presentations for you to say that up front, so we really know that. And it's, and it's the power. The experience that we're seeing is a combination of the power of learning and what you're teaching and how students are learning to think and produce and create and innovate, and the projects themselves. So, just keep the personal in there. Don't be, make sure that that's really part of the story that you're telling.
Can I say something? I believe Los Angeles loves shapes that are attention grabbing. They love Sixth Street Bridge. They love Disney Hall. I think I've been to many neighborhood council meetings and given bus tours through the West Adams Historical District, and the thing that the people on the bus loved the most were the unusual things. The house totally covered in used planks, for instance. So I believe there's a lot more receptivity on the street for unusual shapes. Thank you.
I love that. I just want to say, as you know, growing up, born and raised in Los Angeles, I still ride the bus for what you just said, to look at the people, to look at the urban surroundings, because the bus will take you. I don't need to ride the bus, but I love the bus. I grew up on the bus because LA is on the bus. The bus takes you anywhere. So if you're looking to, design urban environments, take the bus and see where it takes you, and then get off somewhere random in Los Angeles and go and walk around. That is one of the best places to experience the area around you and figure out what the stakeholders need, because they're out there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, don't get me wrong, the objects and the buildings are beautiful. And you're right, absolutely, Drew, that LA loves it. I mean, you look at the Lucas Museum, the new LACMA, right? But again, what those are not what you have presented in terms of underserved neighborhoods. Getting an eco lab to teach about environmentalism in an underserved neighborhood, that's not necessarily, they're not necessarily, I don't see from your presentation that that's necessarily compatible at this point. Maybe the next semester, or as you move along, or if you move this project along, that's what I'm encouraging you to sort of think about, is what if your goal is to help underserved neighborhoods and teach environmentalism, are the objects or the buildings and the functions of those buildings that allow you to reach that goal? If your goal is that you're going to build a beautiful object, then yeah, these are beautiful objects. But that's not what you stated your goal as. So I'm just saying that you need to just connect it all together in the future.
Those are two different budgets as well, what Gary just said. Venice Beach, I was neighborhood council and we had money for the beautiful objects, which are, as you see some of them on the boardwalk, right? And then you have what Gary's specifically talking about, which is entering into the neighborhood, something that is also educating them. Like, for example, if you look at, there used to be an aquarium or some kind of oceanarium on the Venice Beach, oh my God, the Venice Beach Pier. Now there's nothing there. And so there's a constant conversation about teaching about, the ocean by activating that specifically as a space that could be accessible to everybody so that they can learn about the ocean while they're on the pier, right? So think about it like, from a context of the neighborhood and bringing the art and the design back to the neighborhood. And I think that you can't lose when you're arguing from Gary's perspective backwards.
Right. So, but just to be a little bit of a devil's advocate, Venice is very different than South LA.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so if you have Venice that has the resources to be able to build a building like this, and you then say you want to build something like this in South LA, the things that you need to do to allow that to happen and reach your goals are more complex.
Exactly. And those considerations should be communicated in your design choices from the foundation. And that's what Gary and I are having right now are literally the stakeholder conversations. It's like, I'm the money, he's the design. And it's like, how do we make this happen and work for the community? And that's the argument that should be addressed in your designs by us just looking at it in 100 words or less.
All right, everybody. I think that's a good place to call it. This was a wonderful discussion, really, really valuable feedback and amazing work presented by all the students. Want to say thanks again to Justin and Gary for your comments, questions, and insights. Jack, the whole LATTC team, wonderful opportunity that we had to be able to jump into this work and again, see something that's just really beautiful as well as really diving into an interesting science here. So appreciated being able to see that. Our next premiere is also with LATTC and it's in about an hour at 10 a.m. And I hope to see some of you there. For now, thanks for joining us. And until then, Pando on, everybody.